To our other breaking story, the prime suspect in the 2005 Natalee Holloway disappearance, Joran van Sloot, is back on U.S. soil after his extradition from Peru and is now pleading not guilty to extortion and wire fraud charges. The legendary Greta Van Susteren, host, of course, of The Record, my longtime friend and colleague, has been down in Birmingham, Alabama. Look, she's been on this case for the entire 18 years. I remember watching her when I was a reporter, a newspaper reporter in New Mexico, when this whole thing started. She's been tracking down leads. She's been investigating it. She's been talking to all the nefarious people in that criminal underworld, speaking with the main players involved, and talking daily with Natalee's mother, Beth, since the very beginning. Well, Greta tonight wrapping up the magnitude of this case and what it took to get Joran van Sloot, a convicted Dutch murderer, back to the United States. Listen.
I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. It's been a while since I've been here. In fact, the last time I was here, I was at the home of Natalee Holloway, and I was in her bedroom. Now, Natalee Holloway vanished on May 30th, 2005, and when I was in her bedroom, I noticed it was so childlike because she was a kid. She had just graduated high school, but it was so kid-like with pictures and souvenirs from high school, and she went off to Aruba, what would be a wonderful class trip, only she never came home. The last person she was with was Joran van Sloot. He gave her a bit of a tour of Aruba, leaving Carlos and Charlie's bar until her final destination. Back in 2005, I never dreamed that I would be working on a case for 18 years. In fact, I had just been in California covering the Michael Jackson case. I flew back to the United States on the red eye, and I got into bed because I've been up all night with my BlackBerry. My husband got up to make coffee to start his business day, and my BlackBerry went off, and it started vibrating. I looked at it. It was my executive producer in New York, and she said, first she asked me how my trip was, and I said it was fine. I thought it was a little suspicious she was calling me that early. I mean, she didn't usually. And she said that there was a girl missing in Aruba. And I thought, yeah, well, you know, a lot of people, you know, she missed her plane, big deal. What's the big deal? I knew she was 17 or 18 from the conversation. She said, no, I think this is different. So off I went to Aruba. And I had a medium interest in the story, maybe not even that high an interest. And I arrived, and my hotel room wasn't ready, so I went to Natalee Holloway's room. I found out where she was staying at a different hotel. And I really did have a medium interest in the story. And I knocked on the door of the hotel room. I went right past security like I was staying in the hotel. And I knocked on the door, and this woman answered the door. It was Natalee's mother. And I'd never seen her before. And I immediately felt the pain. I felt how horrible the story was. I sat down on the floor with her. I don't know why we didn't sit on the bed, but we sat down on the floor. I looked through all her notes with her. Natalee's suitcase was off to the side. Still, it was half packed because it looked like Natalee had planned to leave. She had planned to leave, and that she just never came back to the room. So I said to Beth, because I felt bad for her. I felt terrible. I mean, here's this woman alone in a room. I didn't know at the time that her then husband was down there with her, but she was alone, and we're sitting on the floor, and I said, I tell you what, I will stay on this story until we find out what happened. And Beth and I have, in our moments, because we've become very good friends, we talk every day, many times a day. We'd sort of laugh because when I said that to her, I thought it would be maybe 3 days so we'd find out. Maybe we'd find Natalee, put her on a plane, yell at her for missing the first plane or for meeting this guy or whatever, or I also feared that we'd find a body. But instead, it's been 18 years, and we're finally there. The arraignment of Joran van Sloot here in Birmingham, Alabama, where I am right now, this is just the beginning. This is Joran van Sloot coming to the place where he will answer to the charges of where he faces 40 years. But Beth and I have said many times back and forth to each other, do you realize that Joran showed Natalee around Aruba? She was never to be seen again. And now Beth gets to show, in some ways, Joran where Natalee lived. I have chased Joran van Sloot all over the world. I spent a weekend interviewing him in Thailand back in 2008. which he lied to me, of course, but he always lied. I've been to Peru, and so it's been a little bit of a cat and mouse game with Joran and me. And now it's been check, 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 check. He's wins some rounds, I win some rounds. Well, now he's showing up in a court to answer to indictment in Alabama, Natalee's backyard, essentially. And so to me, it's checkmate. Well, I'm a defense attorney by nature. And for that reason, I do want Joran van der Sloot to get a fair trial. I want him to have a great lawyer. I want him to have a fair jury. I want the evidence to be presented fairly. If he doesn't like the trial and he's convicted, I want him to have appeal, and I want him to have fair appeal. I do know, though, because I happen to know the evidence, because I'm so deeply involved in it, that I would be shocked if you're found not guilty. But as a defense lawyer and even as a prosecutor, I want the Constitution to work. I want the justice system to work. So am I a prosecutor or defense attorney? I'm now a journalist, and I feel a little bit more like a special agent. I feel more like a FBI agent, because I've been working this case for 18 years, day in and day out. I have anywhere from 200 to 400,000 texts on my telephone involving this case. I have documents. I have evidence. People in Aruba who are involved in a cover-up are afraid of me. I know about it. So I don't see myself as a defense lawyer, prosecutor. I see myself more as an investigator, and I just believe in justice.
And as Greta says, and we talked about this yesterday, this is just the beginning in the fight for justice in the Natalee Holloway disappearance. There's going to be much more to come, including what they've been able to uncover. And listen, I'll tell you this, as a journalist, you know, we cover stories, often we move on. Sometimes you can't remember one story from one day to the next. But the fact that Greta has stayed on this, has been so dogged about it, and has stayed with it for 18 years, that's incredible. I salute you, Greta. Great work.